You are waiting because you believe something must come first. More money, more confidence, more approval, a clearer path. You tell yourself that when conditions improve, then you will begin. But life does not work that way. Growth has never waited for comfort, and purpose has never arrived by invitation. The truth is simple. The moment you are waiting for is already here. At the most basic level, every human being wants safety and certainty. We want to know that if we move forward, we will not fall. But progress has always required stepping beyond what feels secure. When you delay action until everything feels safe, you trap yourself at the lowest level of living, surviving, not growing. Safety is important, but it was never meant to be a prison. You also wait because you want acceptance. You want to be sure others will support you, praise you, or at least not judge you. But no meaningful path has ever been walked without misunderstanding. Approval feels good, but it is not nourishment for the soul. Belonging does not come from hiding your potential, it comes from expressing it honestly. The more you wait to be accepted, the longer you deny who you truly are. Then there is the need to feel capable, to feel worthy. You think confidence will arrive first and action will follow. But confidence is not a prerequisite, it is a result. Every skill you admire, every strong person you respect, became that way by acting before they felt ready. Waiting for confidence is like waiting to be strong before you lift the weight. Strength is built in the effort, not before it. At a deeper level, you sense there is more inside you, something creative, something meaningful, something uniquely yours. This inner call does not shout, it whispers. And every time you ignore it, you feel a quiet frustration, a sense that you are not fully alive. This is not laziness or fear, it is unrealized potential asking for expression. The longer you wait, the louder that inner dissatisfaction becomes. The perfect time is a myth because life is not designed for perfection. It is designed for becoming. You do not discover your highest self by waiting for ideal conditions. You discover it by choosing growth in imperfect moments. Action is not reckless when it is guided by purpose. It is necessary. Stop waiting for the day when everything lines up. Start with what you have, where you are, as you are. Each step you take awakens the next level within you. And one day, you will realize the perfect time was never in the future. It was always the moment you decided to begin. When you wait for perfect conditions, you quietly place your life on pause. You tell yourself that you are being careful, responsible, or patient. But beneath that story is a deeper truth. You are choosing survival over growth. Survival mode focuses only on avoiding risk, maintaining comfort, and protecting what already exists. It is necessary at times, but it was never meant to be a permanent state. When survival becomes your default, your world slowly shrinks. Your goals become smaller, your dreams feel unrealistic, and your energy is spent maintaining the familiar rather than creating something better. Perfect conditions rarely arrive because life is constantly changing. There will always be uncertainty, gaps in knowledge, missing resources, or unanswered questions. By waiting for everything to line up, you allow fear to disguise itself as logic. The mind convinces you that delay is wisdom, when in reality it is avoidance. Growth requires movement, and movement always involves stepping into the unknown. Every meaningful improvement in your life, learning a skill, building confidence, creating stability, has come from acting before you felt fully ready. Staying in survival mode also affects how you see yourself. You begin to identify as someone who prepares endlessly but never begins. Over time, this weakens self-trust. You stop believing in your ability to adapt, solve problems, and recover from setbacks. Yet human beings are not built only to endure, they are built to evolve. Your capacity expands when you challenge it, not when you shelter it. The moment you take action, even imperfect action, something shifts internally. You move from waiting to participating, from fear to engagement. Problems that once felt overwhelming become specific and manageable. You gain feedback from reality instead of imagination, and that feedback becomes fuel for growth. Waiting promises safety, but it quietly steals momentum. Action may feel uncomfortable at first, but it restores movement, meaning, and direction. Growth begins the instant you stop trying to survive life and start actively shaping it. Safety and comfort are natural human needs, but they were never meant to define the limits of your life. They exist to support you, not to confine you. When you allow comfort to become your primary goal, you slowly exchange possibility for predictability. Life becomes manageable, but it also becomes smaller. You begin to choose what feels familiar over what feels meaningful, and over time, that choice dulls your sense of purpose. Real progress always carries an element of discomfort because it asks you to stretch beyond what you already know. Growth challenges your habits, your identity, and your assumptions about what you can handle. If you wait until something feels easy or safe, you will wait forever. Every new level of ability requires a temporary period of instability where you are learning, adjusting, and sometimes failing. This instability is not a sign that something is wrong. It is evidence that you are expanding. Comfort has a subtle way of convincing you that where you are is good enough. It whispers that ambition is unnecessary, that risk is irresponsible, and that change can wait. But comfort does not ask whether you are fulfilled, it only asks whether you are undisturbed. Over time, this creates a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that you are capable of more but unwilling to reach for it. This inner tension grows not because life is hard, but because your potential is being underused. Stepping outside comfort does not mean acting recklessly or ignoring responsibility. It means choosing conscious discomfort over unconscious stagnation. It means being willing to feel awkward, uncertain, or exposed in order to learn and improve. When you do this, you discover something important: you are far more resilient than you believed. What once felt unsafe becomes familiar, and your comfort zone expands as a result. Each time you choose growth over ease, you build trust in yourself. You learn that discomfort is temporary, but regret can last much longer. Safety may protect you from immediate pain, but growth protects you from a lifetime of feeling unfulfilled. Progress begins the moment comfort stops being your goal and becomes your starting point. The desire for approval is deeply human. From an early age, acceptance teaches us that we belong, that we are seen, and that we are safe within a group. But when the need for approval begins to control your choices, it slowly pulls you away from your true self. You start shaping your actions around expectations rather than values. And over time, this creates a gap between who you are and who you present to the world. That gap is where self-doubt and dissatisfaction grow. Waiting for permission or validation delays action because approval is never guaranteed. No matter what path you choose, someone will misunderstand it, question it, or disapprove of it. If you make acceptance the condition for movement, you give others authority over your life. This dependence weakens your sense of autonomy and trains you to measure your worth through external reactions rather than internal alignment. True belonging cannot be built on self-betrayal. When you suppress your ideas, talents, or ambitions to avoid judgment, you also suppress the energy that makes you feel alive. Expression is not a luxury, it is a psychological need. Without it, motivation fades and resentment quietly builds. You may appear connected on the surface, but internally you feel unseen because you are not fully showing yourself. Belonging loses its meaning when it requires you to disappear. Ironically, authenticity is what creates genuine connection. When you act in alignment with who you truly are, you attract people who resonate with that honesty. Some will walk away, but those who remain offer a deeper, more sustainable form of acceptance. This kind of belonging does not depend on performance or approval, it grows from mutual respect. Choosing self-expression over approval requires courage. It means tolerating temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term integrity. Each time you speak or act from your true values, you strengthen self-respect and reduce the fear of judgment. Over time, the need for approval loosens its grip. You realize that being accepted for who you are is far more fulfilling than being praised for who you are pretending to be. Many people believe confidence must come first, that one day they will wake up feeling ready, capable, and fearless. Until then, they delay action, assuming that confidence is a requirement rather than a result. This belief keeps people trapped in inaction because confidence does not appear in the absence of experience. It is formed through it. Waiting to feel confident before acting is like waiting to know how to swim before entering the water. Confidence grows from evidence. Each time you take a step, attempt a task, or face a challenge, your mind gathers proof of what you can handle. Even small actions create momentum. You learn that mistakes are survivable, that failure is information, and that discomfort does not mean danger. This lived experience slowly rewires fear into familiarity. Without action, the mind fills the gap with imagined outcomes, and imagination often exaggerates risk while underestimating resilience. Inaction also erodes self-belief. The longer you delay, the more you reinforce the idea that you are incapable or unprepared. This creates a cycle where hesitation feeds doubt, and doubt feeds more hesitation. Action breaks this loop. It does not require certainty, it creates it. Each attempt strengthens trust in your ability to adapt, even when outcomes are uncertain. Confidence is not loud or flawless. It is quiet trust built over time. It shows up as willingness rather than fearlessness. Willingness to try, to learn, to adjust, and to continue. People who appear confident are often those who have failed repeatedly and discovered that failure did not define them. They learned through action that their worth is not destroyed by mistakes. The moment you act without confidence, you begin building it. You move from imagining who you could be to experiencing who you are becoming. Progress replaces doubt with clarity. Confidence follows not because everything worked perfectly, but because you proved to yourself that you can move forward anyway. Action is the soil where confidence grows, and without it, confidence cannot exist. Confidence is often misunderstood as a feeling you must possess before you begin, but in reality, it is something that is formed through experience. When people wait to feel confident, they are waiting for a signal that only action can create. Confidence does not arrive from thinking, planning, or imagining success. It emerges from doing. The belief that confidence should come first keeps many capable people motionless, not because they lack ability, but because they misunderstand how belief in oneself is built. At the start of anything new, uncertainty is natural. Your mind highlights what you don't know, what could go wrong, and how unprepared you feel. This discomfort is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign that you are stepping into growth. If confidence were required at the beginning, no one would ever improve. Skill, clarity, and self-trust develop only after repeated exposure to challenge. The first step is always the most uncomfortable because it provides no past evidence to lean on. Each action you take creates proof. Even when the result is imperfect, you gain information about your ability to learn, adjust, and recover. This evidence slowly replaces doubt. You begin to trust yourself not because outcomes are guaranteed, but because you know you can handle what happens next. This is real confidence, not the absence of fear, but the presence of self-trust. Avoiding action has the opposite effect. When you delay, your mind fills the silence with self-criticism. You begin to question your potential and exaggerate your limitations. Over time, hesitation becomes a habit, and doubt feels like your natural state. Action interrupts this pattern. It shifts your focus from imagined failure to real-world feedback, which is always more useful and often less frightening. Confidence is built step by step, not all at once. It grows when you act before you feel ready and discover that readiness is created along the way. The most confident people are not those who waited the longest, but those who were willing to begin while still uncertain. The moment you stop waiting for confidence and start moving forward, you begin becoming the person you were waiting to be. When you ignore your inner potential, the cost is not always immediate, but it is deeply felt over time. At first, the discomfort is subtle, a vague sense of restlessness, a feeling that something is missing even when life appears stable. You may be meeting expectations, fulfilling responsibilities, and doing what is required of you, yet there is an underlying emptiness that refuses to disappear. This feeling is not ingratitude or failure, it is unrealized potential asking for expression. Every person carries abilities, ideas, and desires that reflect who they are meant to become. When these parts are consistently suppressed, the mind and emotions respond with frustration. Motivation fades because effort feels disconnected from meaning. Tasks become heavier, not because they are difficult, but because they lack personal significance. Over time, this disconnect can turn into resentment toward circumstances, toward others, and eventually toward oneself. Ignoring potential also affects self-respect. When you repeatedly choose comfort or fear over growth, you send yourself a silent message that your deeper aspirations are not worth honoring. This erodes inner trust. You may still function effectively, but you no longer feel aligned. The gap between who you are and who you know you could be becomes a source of quiet pain that does not disappear with distraction. This frustration grows stronger with time, not weaker. Potential does not vanish when ignored, it waits. And the longer it waits, the more persistent it becomes. Many people mistake this inner tension for stress or boredom, but it is something more specific. It is the pressure of unused capacity seeking release. When left unaddressed, it can lead to burnout, cynicism, or a sense of being trapped. The relief comes not from escape, but from expression. The moment you take steps toward what matters to you, energy returns. Even small actions restore a sense of direction and vitality. Fulfillment is not found in perfection or approval, but in honoring what is alive within you. When you give your potential a path forward, frustration transforms into purpose, and emptiness gives way to meaning. Purpose is not something you suddenly discover after long periods of waiting or thinking. It reveals itself through movement. Many people believe they must first understand their direction completely before taking action, but clarity rarely appears in stillness. It emerges through engagement with life. When you wait for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, or complete certainty, you delay the very process that creates meaning. Action brings feedback, and feedback brings understanding. Each step you take, even a small one, teaches you something about what resonates with you and what does not. Purpose is shaped by these experiences. It is refined through trial, adjustment, and persistence. Without action, purpose remains abstract, an idea rather than a lived reality. Movement turns intention into identity. Starting now does not require bold or dramatic decisions. It requires honesty and willingness. Small, consistent actions aligned with your values create momentum. As momentum builds, confidence, clarity, and commitment follow. You begin to see patterns in what energizes you and what drains you. These patterns guide you more accurately than endless thinking ever could. Waiting often feels responsible, but it carries a hidden cost. Time passes regardless of your readiness. Opportunities change, energy shifts, and circumstances evolve. The longer you delay, the more disconnected you feel from your own life. Regret rarely comes from actions taken with good intent, it comes from chances never explored. Purpose thrives on participation, not perfection. When you act in the present moment, you reclaim agency. You move from being a passive observer of your life to an active creator. This shift transforms uncertainty into curiosity and fear into engagement. Even setbacks become meaningful because they contribute to your understanding of yourself. The ideal moment is an illusion because life is never fully settled. Purpose is not waiting in the future for you to become ready. It is waiting in the present for you to begin. The moment you take responsibility for your growth, you step onto a path that reveals itself one step at a time. Meaning is not found by waiting, it is built by starting where you are.